Salutations, Sword Family. Welcome to the birthday edition of the Teahouse. To start out today, we obviously have our tea. Not bad. Great value strawberry hibiscus. It's all right. And my lovely wife Foxy gave me an early birthday present that I can open here in front of everyone. Oh, all right. Can I get this out of here without making a mess? Probably not. Come on. Well, this has to easily be the most fitting thing I could have opened today. We have a new teacup. Very, very traditional, except for maybe the handle here, but that is just beautiful. Oh, nice little saucer. Got the lid. Oh, well, extra special. Little insert to put your loose tea in. Don't know if you can really see the design continues along the rim there. And then the cup itself. That is, wow. I will definitely be using this next time. Get it all. Definitely needs a wash before we use it, but that is a birthday present. Thank you. Thank you very much, love. That's just awesome. Now that I have styrofoam all over me and my desk. All right. So, as I said, in 3 days now, I will be turning 43 years old. And that, along with my recent injury, has kind of made me rethink how I train and how other people should probably train. And that's kind of the general theme of today's show. Take this stupid thing off. I was going to try and leave it on the whole stream, but that's not going to happen. So, it's important to train. It's important for everyone to train, young and old. But as you get older, the way you train is going to change. Whether you get injured or not, it's not going to be the same as when you were younger. When I was 16, 17, 20, even in my early 30s, my training was a completely different beast than it is now. Today, I do some qigong in the mornings. Sometimes I walk every single day between 9 and 11,000 steps. And one of the things I've started to do, because I'm usually doing the majority of my walking here in the apartment, is I've started carrying one of my swords with me. Usually one of my lighter ones, but occasionally I'll carry one of my heavier ones as well. And why do I do that? Well, I mean, everything's funner with a sword for one, but if things were different and I was able to carry a sword around with me the way most people carry guns, I would rather be able to walk while carrying a sword and not get exhausted, not get, you know, overtaxed. So, 11,000 steps every day while I'm in the house, carrying this or the Tangjian that I showed last time, or the Qing Jian that I showed. I also have a 5-pound set of ankle weights that I used to wear just to keep up with the physical therapy that I did for my hip. And that kind of flows into the other topic that I wanted to talk about tonight, which is training as it gets cold. During the warmer months, it's not difficult to go walk outside, to go to what used to be my local archery range, which isn't anymore, but it's much easier to just do things outside. But as the weather changes, it's fairly windy outside right now. It's not terribly cold, but it's getting there. Over the course of the next little while, I guarantee it's going to get much colder than definitely than it is right now. So we tend to transition into doing things indoors. Now, as you can probably see, I don't have a lot of room in my apartment. We have a couch here, we have a couch here. There's not a whole lot of space right here. So how do we utilize that little bit of area to make sure that we can continue doing the things that we need to do to keep in shape, to keep, up to par? Because there's nothing worse than getting to a plateau during the summer and during the spring, and then during the fall and winter, fall off. And then you have to start back up again the next spring. So you have limited space. I can't exactly do the qigong that I normally do in this small of an area. I have to modify it slightly just so I don't end up stepping on something or tripping over my dog. So what do? Well, I just said it. Modification. You change what you would do outside and you fit it into your space instead of fitting, the exercise or fitting yourself. You fit yourself into the space instead of fitting the space to you. One of the things that I like to do is the Yang Simplified 24 Tai Chi form that I learned from my most recent Shifu. But in this area, it's not going to happen. I've got, I don't know, maybe 5 feet or a foot right here. So I will continue doing the upper body movements, and I'll make my lower body movements smaller. That's definitely one option. You can also just do smaller exercises. We have a speed bag in the other bedroom. I used to have a heavy bag, but some of the neighbors would complain about how loud it was, so that kind of went away. I have a couple of small styrofoam blocks that I wrapped in duct tape, and I'll set those over here, and I'll sit on the couch, and I'll do very, very light point work with the Jian. Just poke, poke, poke. When you have limitations, whether it's an injury or the weather, you have to alter your training to fit that limitation. And especially when you have a physical limitation as well as a weather limitation. I mean, when I was younger, I probably could have just gone outside in the snow. I did it. Go out in the snow and do a sword form or an empty hand form in the snow because I was not worried about tripping and breaking something again. But now it's a completely different beast, and I have to be more careful, especially because my wife would probably kill me if I broke something else again. So not bad. I will also play with my little fidget toys here. You can use something like this, or I also have a couple of folding fans or small daggers that I have on the weapon rack in my bedroom. You can continue to do weapon forms with a shorter weapon, because this thing, doing a sword form with this inside, I've got gouges on my ceiling. I tend to get in trouble for doing that. So, yes, tell the room what they're meant to be. Well, I mentioned this last time, but I might as well go over it again. When you are training in Chinese martial arts, it is incredibly difficult to find training aids. So you can either use live steel in your training, which is a bad idea. Do not do that. Or you make them yourself. So you can tell I'm better with my right hand. Oak dowel rod, small nail that I cut to size, small ring that I cut out of PVC, and some jewelry beads. These are Chinese emeitzi, also known as ome piercers. It's a small handheld they spin as a flourish, but also to distract your opponent because the eye is attracted to movement. So if someone is fighting you and you get one of those spinning in their face, they're going to watch that. They're not going to watch the other one come and stab you in the eyeball. That's one of the things that annoys me the most about training in Chinese martial arts. You can find bokuto. You can find wooden Japanese swords. You can find shinai or kendo sticks. You can find wooden naginata. You can find plastic long swords, arming swords, just about everything that you could possibly want for training except for Chinese swords or other Chinese weapons. You can find jian, you can find dao, and they're pretty good quality. I have one. I have a black, I call it plastic, but it's probably not plastic. It's made by, I think it's called Blades USA. I've had it for years. It's modeled off of the Green Destiny from Crouching Tiger. Hold on. These are made by the same company. Like I said, I think it's Blades USA. I might be wrong. We have the European longsword. And then we have the Green Destiny. I got bored. Boredom and me and Sharpies. You can find things like this. You can find things like this. Over there, there's another weapons rack that has a bokuto, which is a Japanese katana trainer. But for things like umeitsi, for things like chicken sickles, which is actually a thing, look it up. It is a form of Chinese short sword, I guess is the best way to put it. The market is incredibly limited. So what I like to do for my students or for just people who happen to come across me is I will make them training weapons. Because with these, that was relatively inexpensive. The dowel cost me $4. I had the PVC. I had the nails. I was lucky to find the beads. I was going to use these, but they weren't wide enough. I will make trainers for people, and I usually do it at cost because you can find OMHC online. It's not difficult. They're anywhere from 20 to, I think the most expensive one I found is like $50. But the ends of those are sharpened on the steel version. And I can tell you, even just with those, I was spinning the first one I made and I caught my wrist. You can't see now because it was like 2 months ago, but I actually cut myself. If you're doing that with what basically amounts to a metal arrowhead and you catch your wrist, especially right here, that's bad news. You're going to tear yourself up. So this isn't a bad training sword. The only issue I have with this thing, and I'm pretty sure in the modern version they fixed it, because my good friend Nick, shout out to the Historical Fencing Guild, live stream every Friday at 6 o'clock Mountain Time. He has, I think, one of these, or maybe possibly a pair. His does not have this issue. Mine does. And that issue is very simple. The guard comes off incredibly easily. When you're swinging this thing around, trying to do a sword form, I've had that piece fly off and hit that window right there. I was honestly worried I was going to break the window. So I stopped using this to do pretty much anything. The pommel also comes off too, but that's a little harder to pull off. But it comes off too. But I have had this for a long time. I'm not even going to try and gauge how long it's been, but it's been a long time. And I'm fairly certain in the current incarnation, it's all a single piece. So you don't have to worry about that as much. So if students come to me, now they're going to have been students of mine for at least a year before I'll even consider teaching them weapons. If they come to me and they want to learn a weapon and there's not a training version of the weapon they want, I'll make one. I have made Dao, I've made Tien, I've obviously made OMHC. The only real thing that I don't have that rule for is the fan. Because just about every fan on the market is safe to train with. Most of them are plastic, or you can find bamboo. If you want to pay more, you can find metal ones, but I wouldn't suggest using metal. Even though, yeah, if you slap somebody with a metal fan, it's going to hurt. So does the plastic and the bamboo. And the difference is with a metal fan, when it bends because you hit someone or, you strike someone with it, when that thing bends, it's toast. It's done. There's no coming back from that. So get the bamboo or the plastic. If you want to learn a fan form, you don't really need anything other than what's already on the market for training. But if you're training Jian, this isn't bad, but it's a little pricey. I think the last time I looked, it's like $35. Of course, that's been a while. The same company makes a dowel, but it's a specific kind of dowel. And if it's not the kind that you want, you're kind of in trouble. Chinese ring daggers. I have never, in all of my 25 years of doing Chinese martial arts, I have never seen a ring dagger trainer using the same method that I did here. Cut a piece of PVC, use a nail, attach it to another piece of PVC, but going this way instead of this way. I could easily make a ring dagger trainer. I haven't. Maybe I should. If there was actually anybody in the audience besides Foxy, I'd ask. Because, if there's anybody out there who wants to train in the ring dagger, let me know and I will gladly make a trainer for you so that you don't have to go out and buy. Because even the steel ones that you find, I don't think they're sharpened. I think they're completely blunt. But still, okay, here's a story I have to tell. Because this will tell you how dangerous even blunt weapons are. Many years ago, we had a friend living here with us before we had most of this stuff, so we had a lot more room. And he had his friend come down and visit. And we were doing boffer at the time. People who don't know what that is, it's when you take PVC, pipe insulation, and duct tape, and you make a soft-ish weapons, and then you go out into, the park or wherever and beat the crap out of each other with it. So we had several boffer weapons at the house. Most of them were made by me. That's the other kind of trainer I make. They're not all made out of wood because that'd be far too expensive for some things. If I was making a 6-foot pole arm, I'd have to go spend a lot more money, buy a broomstick or something. So we had several boffer weapons in the house. And we had our friend Justin and his friend Kevin. And we had Justin's little brother coming down to visit. And we decided to go out into the hills. We found a pretty nice area. And Kevin and Justin's brother were fighting. And somehow, I'm not entirely sure how, the cut end on the bottom of the boffer weapon somehow clipped Kevin, and he bled a lot. We actually very seriously considered taking him to the hospital because he was bleeding from a piece of cut PVC. It wasn't even steel. That's why now all of my boffer weapons usually have some kind of pommel that's almost entirely constructed out of either some of the pipe insulation, or I've made long swords and used plastic caps from the 2-liter bottles of soda, wrap those in duct tape and tape them to the end of the PVC. So there's nothing, hopefully nothing, that you can slice yourself open with. And like I said, even with my piercer over there, cut my wrist. So even if you buy the blunted safe weapons, there's still a possibility you'll cut yourself, you'll cut somebody else. That's why there's so much safety equipment out there for when you're sparring, wearing helmet, wearing a vest. Because even with these training weapons, let's see if we can get this. That looks pretty blunt. There we go. That's better. That's pretty rounded off. But if you hit yourself or you hit somebody else with a thrust in the chest, it's still going to hurt. Not exactly my story, but Nick told me, or has actually told everyone, about a time when he was sparring, and I think he said he pulled the muscle clean off his rib with sparring weapons. So you need to be aware of safety. You need to be aware of... That's another thing that I like to teach my students. If you're sparring with someone and the other person is of a lower skill level than you, when you're sparring, you go at their speed, at their intensity. You don't go at yours. You know what you're capable of. So you always have to be aware of what the other person is capable of. When I spar with Foxy or any other student of mine, I will go at their speed and their intensity. I will never go at my own. The only time I will do that is when I'm going up against someone the same skill level as me. And even then, we always start slow and easy. Last summer, I think, something around there, I recorded a video with Foxy. I had developed my own version of the Wing Chun 4-point block to be used with swords instead of empty-handed. I really should put that video up on my channel. But I kind of need her permission first because she's in the video too. I know that even with my injury, my skill level is higher than hers. Especially since I didn't injure anything in my upper body. So I was going at her speed. I was using this, and she was using this little collapsible piece of garbage that I've also had for a long time. It's bent because I have used it to strike against objects and it just bent one of the sections. For a long time, it was constantly extended because that bend made it harder to get. Yeah, see, she says, right, I'm good for demos being nice and slow. Exactly. So she's using this collapsible Tien. I'm using this black one. And I was going incredibly slow. Now, anyone who has done martial arts for a while knows when you're doing a form or you're demonstrating something, it is difficult to go slowly because your body is used to moving. Your body is used to moving faster. So if you're doing the same thing at a slower speed, you'll trip yourself up because you're so used to going at a faster speed. Your brain is already on the next movement and you're still doing the first one. You'll trip up. You'll just, where was I? What was I doing? That's one thing that I also learned from my friend and Shifu Jack. You know, when he was teaching a form in class and going through the form at his normal speed, and then he'd have to slow down for sections. He'd forget where he was in the form. He'd take a minute and be confused as to where exactly he was sitting in the form. But it's necessary. If you're sparring with someone or you're teaching someone that's at a lower level than you need to go slowly. It's just a fact. So I'm also kind of teaching my 6-year-old cousin. Well, second cousin, possibly. Oh, hey, look, it's our friend Johnny Cage from the Historical Fencing Guild stream. Hey, Johnny, how you doing? He plays the football, or as us filthy Americans call it, soccer. No, it's football. So, like I said, I'm teaching my 6-year-old cousin, and she's 6. So yeah, she's kind of at a low level. The first thing I did is make her a bright pink bopper sword. She loves it. She calls it her magic wand. It's kind of cute. And then I taught her a very, very simple 6-move, I guess you could call it a form, of strike, block, strike, block. And that was earlier this summer. And recently, she came to me and said she wanted to practice. She still remembered it. Even though we had not gone over it since, we hadn't practiced in those months, she still remembered. And even though she's just 6 years old, she's doing pretty well. And I'm kind of hoping that she's going to stick with this, because while she might technically be a little young to very seriously start training, if she gets the bug in her now, it won't stop. I first got into martial arts watching the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when I was a kid. The original 1980s Ninja Turtle cartoon, Highlander, Conan the Barbarian, and there's my friend Kevin, not the same Kevin, other Kevin. Got to keep. That's what got me into martial arts. And you notice they're all vastly different things than what I'm doing now. You know, the Ninja Turtles were ninjutsu, not really, but we'll say it is. Highlander, you have a Scotsman using a katana. There's a reason for it, I'm sure. Conan the Barbarian. Don't really know what you'd call that kind of fighting. If you introduce something to someone at the right time, the right thing at the right time, they will stick with it. Oof. Johnny was playing the football and hurt himself. Don't do that. That's not good. Don't do that. Cartoon jitsu. Yeah, pretty much. But then if you watch the Ninja Turtles movies, those were actually a little... I mean, they had fight choreographers. They had actual martial artists in those suits. Conan is big swing, sharp, pointy thing with big muscle. Yeah, pretty much. Now, again, we're talking about the original Conan, not the one from recently. The Arnold Schwarzenegger Conan. Where at the beginning of the movie, they make a sword by pouring molten metal into snow. Yeah. I'm not even going to go into how stupid that is, because we're almost 45 minutes in, and that would be a rant that would probably last for the remainder of the show. Don't do that. That's not how you make swords. You can cast blades. That's fine. Don't just no. We're just going to no. Have some more tea. Yeah, magic. Magic is always the excuse when something is made that doesn't make sense. It was magic. Yeah. Although, I will admit that in Highlander 3, when Connor breaks Ramirez's sword and has to go back to Glenfinnan, that scene actually pretty well done. You have a metal ingot that's heated over an open flame, which is possible, but we can suspend belief there for a minute. And then he's hammering it to shape on an anvil. You even see him mess up several times before he gets the right kind of metal. I like that scene. And yes, I like Highlander 3. We're not even going to get into that either. And I like Highlander Endgame, so. Although I do think that Duncan is the better swordsman than Connor. Was the open flame a jet engine? No. I'm pretty sure. I'd have to actually go back and rewatch it, but I'm pretty sure it was basically a handmade coal forge. It could have been wood. I'd have to go back and rewatch it. It's been a while. You could heat metal in a jet engine if you wanted to get close enough to it to singe all the hair off your body and look like a 12-year-old boy again, but, you know. I like most of the Highlander movies, but I don't understand why they went from Highlander to Highlander 3 while skipping 2. Yeah, you know. It's kind of like Xbox 360, Xbox One. You know, they kind of skipped over. No, we know there is a Highlander 2, but we don't talk about that. We don't discuss Highlander 2. Not even the Renegade cut, because it's just bad. Although I would like to see someone honestly debate which is worse, Highlander 2 or Highlander the Source. That would be an entertaining conversation because they both suck. And normally, if you're debating, at least a portion of the population will agree with one side or the other. Yeah, see, Kevin says Highlander 2 just because aliens. Yes, but the Source is just... Even Adrian Paul almost walked off set because that movie made no sense. It was that bad. The man was just like, what is this? And again, just like with Connor MacLeod, Duncan MacLeod is a Scotsman that uses a katana. Until Highlander the Source, when it gets broken. And he uses, anybody know? Butterfly swords. The final fight in Highlander the Source has Duncan MacLeod using a pair of butterfly swords. There's always a reason. Connor got his katana from Ramirez, who got it from a Japanese woman that he was dating. Duncan got his katana from a Japanese man when he washed up on shore in Japan. And to be fair, Duncan did get trained by Connor, so it's not too surprising. Yeah, but see, that's the thing. He got his katana later. When he was training with Connor, he wasn't using the katana yet. He didn't get that for probably close to 100 years. And then you had random butterfly swords. I am kind of glad that they did use butterfly swords, though. It's nice seeing, because that's another thing you don't see a whole lot of. You don't see a whole lot of Chinese weapons unless you're watching Chinese movies. But katanas are everywhere. See, Kevin says, sure, but Uncle Connor had one, and he was like, hey, that's nifty. Probably. Because imagine you're in the 16th century. You're using a big-ass two-handed claymore. And you meet someone using a 3-foot curved sword. It's probably going to blow your mind just a little bit. But you don't see a lot of Chinese swords. I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here. When Jet Li's movie Hero was brought over to the States by Miramax, Jet Li's character Nameless uses a very unique looking jian. It's a nice looking sword. It's got kind of a Hanjian style guard. And it's got a hole in the blade. He actually uses that hole to catch another weapon during the movie. When Miramax bought the rights and brought it over to the States, not only did they change the entirety of the meaning of the movie by changing one line, which I know Zhang Yimou approved of, but still, no. On the poster for the movie, you have Nameless with his jian, but the American Miramax poster, he has a katana. They changed the sword just on the movie poster to a katana. Why? They didn't even change the sword in the movie. They just changed it on the poster. And not only that, excuse me. Not only that, but when they made the trailer for the movie for American audiences, they gave away the ending. They already told everyone that Nameless was an assassin. They ruined the surprise in the trailer. I was lucky. I got the movie from a U.S. retailer that was selling the original Chinese version. The back cover is in Chinese. It even has a lovely little cutout in here. The menu is in Chinese. So if you don't read Chinese, it tells you right there where to click on to get to the movie. And then shortly after I got this, the retailer I got it from had to stop selling it because they didn't have permission from the Chinese retailer to sell it. Yeah, God advertised to the people, and Americans know what a katana is. That's exactly it. Studios never ruined the ending in a trailer. Yeah, I was kind of annoyed. When I heard that movie was going to be coming over here, I'll admit I was excited. I'd already seen the movie. I already knew what the ending of the movie was. If you haven't seen that movie, I highly suggest you watch it. But don't get the Miramax version. Don't do it. Tianxia does not mean our land. I'm just going to leave it at that. It's a good movie. Yes, it is a Chinese wire fu wuxia movie. So was Crouching Tiger. So was House of Flying Daggers. So was Curse of the Golden Flower. If you don't understand... All right, fine. Another little mini rant because we have like 5 minutes left in the show. When Crouching Tiger first came out in 2000, yeah, that movie's 23 years old, people were complaining that the characters in the movie were flying. So what? That's really not that unheard of in wuxia movies. Happens all the time. Oh, shame on you, Kevin, 23 years old, and I still haven't seen it. Shame. Shame. The first one's better than the second one, though. I will say that one right now. Anyway. American audiences need things force-fed to them. How many times have they remade Batman? How many times have they remade Superman, Spider-Man? Also haven't seen Beetlejuice. Oh, dude. Oh. Anyway, these people need to have everything explained to them in explicit detail. Johnny, you either. Oh, you guys are hurting my soul. American audiences cannot fathom that the people in wuxia movies are basically Chinese superheroes. They have trained themselves to such a high level that they're able to defy gravity. They have trained themselves to be able to move faster than normal people. If an American audience doesn't have a scene or an entire movie showing these things happening in real time, it just doesn't click in their mind. They're like, oh, I don't get it. Why Chinese people don't believe in gravity over there? Wuxia movies are Chinese superhero movies. I now wonder if there's a wuxia superhero in Marvel. Yeah, there is. There's actually a couple. Iron Fist. He got his powers basically through training. You could make an argument for Daredevil. There's quite a few. But American audiences, if no one had made the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie or any of the subsequent reboots, I guarantee you there would be at least a portion, maybe a small portion, but still a portion of the population complaining Peter Parker can shoot webs and stick to walls, and they don't know why. even though the answer has been in comic books for 80 years, probably more. There you go, Foxy. Thank you. Shang-Chi, yeah. Unless you go by the movie, he got his power through training. Nothing more. That's another good movie. I don't care what anybody says. Shang-Chi was a good movie. All right, well, I think I've rambled on long enough. We don't really seem to have any questions. Just take a quick look through the chat here. Nope, don't see any questions. It's been a little over an hour now. So I think we'll call it for tonight. Johnny, Kevin, thanks for coming in. Good to see you guys. And I will see everyone in 2 weeks. All right. 再见。